Hey everyone, Cisco Cracker again, aka Coop. A bad video update, but an update just the same. So what I have found out is these fittings, and it may just be the barb fitting on this end, leaks fuel under pressure. This end's horrible. But you know, this is stuff I was just kind of just throwing together and trying to get it to come under pressure and see if the injector would spray. I did check the spray, and it does spray, but this is a sequential port fuel injection. I'm only pulling from cylinder number 1, so it's only spraying, you know, almost once a second. It's more than once a second, but not by a lot. So of course it's never going to spray enough fuel to make the fumes that the whole motor needs. But my original plan, where I was going to sensor, you know, use these wires here that I'm firing the injector with right now as a sense on an Arduino, and then I'll measure the length of that pulse, and then I'll just output that pulse to this injector on my own all the time to figure out, you know, how much I should be spraying. That's still a plan. I'll still be doing that. I don't have the Arduino in line yet. You see, I just got it tied together with some tape. I was just trying to spray it and see if it made enough. I turned it over. I got to see it spray, but yeah, there's not enough there for the motor to run. So that'll be next. I'll have to source some better fittings, get this stuff all apart, put the better fittings on so I don't have any leaks. I did get the fuel pump on a relay, and that is doing well. I don't have any leaks coming off down here anymore by the fuel pump / regulator. That's good now. Of course, I still have to replace the fuel tank with something. But anyway, progress is being made. I'm moving along. I think Monday I'll get a hand on the Arduino stuff so I can work on some other things. I'm probably going to go ahead and delve into the monstrosity of a wiring harness I have here. It has relays on it. This was out of my 95 Trans Am. So this was the underhood relay panel. It's supposed to power a couple of other connectors on here to power the computer on. These two are supposed to be powered also, so I don't know if all that's going to work or not. So I got some time. Maybe tomorrow I might mess with that. Run some of these wires off this old harness. I may strip some of those wires out that I don't need, that I won't be using in this setup, because I've already got Fiero wires instead. But you can see on this harness where the power is supposed to come in, you know, on the distribution. So I hooked this on a ring terminals coming off the battery. It's got a bunch of fusible links on it. That's what those guys are. Those thicker sections, fusible links. They power all kinds of things in the original 95 Trans Am harness. But yeah, I've got connectors on here for fans. These big guys right here, actually. So those are for my fans. This is like a number 12 wire probably. But yeah, I'll just extend these wires length with some number 12 wire. I don't know if I'll use butt splices or soldered in or what, but I'll get these things all together and into the car and power it on. And whenever I do run the car, maybe on I might use another bubbler, you know, just a fumes box to run the car for a bit, and we can see if that'll be enough. Where we can run it long enough. About 3 minutes is all I need for it to get warm enough that the fans ought to want to kick on. So that'll be a good test. We could check that out. So anyhow, just do some views. People can pause things and have a look around. You can see the coolant hoses where they route around to the right. 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches between the cool side and the hot side of that. You know, going back to the radiators in the rear there. You can see my wasted spark 4 distributor set up here. Throttle cable going along through there. This copper line is the EGR, where I'm sucking the hot gases off the exhaust from here. It's going into the box, and then it comes out of the box and goes around to the EGR. I'll be controlling that also, so that's another Arduino job. So yeah, I may go from, you know, all these little tests I'm trying to do here at the house and having limited success. There's the little relay I just put together. So that's powering on my fuel pump whenever I turn my key on. I don't have any kind of sensor to know I'm at pressure and to turn the pump off until the motor starts. None of that intelligence is in it. I'm just turning it on. And you can hear it, you know, run up until it comes under pressure, and then, you know, once it's at full pressure, you can hear the pump get under load. But yeah, it looks like it'll work. I just need to spray the injector more often, and you know, get the heat controlled by an Arduino via the EGR, and get the fans where they'll turn on. If I get that far, then yeah, I'll definitely be driving up and down the road, because that heat controlled box for the fume side will definitely be what's going on for how I'm going to drive anyway, like normal. So I guess the last update about that kind of stuff that's coming very, very soon is the knob that I'm going to put on to the... So where I was saying I was going to go off this injector 1, so here's injector 1. You can see I put a couple of wires on it to run it on down to where the injector is. So this injector 1 is actually going to turn into a sense, and then on the Arduino it's going to be also reading... it's going to be reading a potentiometer, a knob, you know, so basically in the middle of the knob's range will be normal pulse width that's coming from the computer. You turn it to the left, you'll get less pulse than what the computer says ought to be happening. And I'm talking about the pulse that's coming from the original fuel injection computer, from that guy. So whenever he says, you know, pulse this injector at this much width, you know, he's adjusting that all the time, how much he says to spray, based on all these other conditions that are going on, you know, with the coolant, temperature, intake air temperature, RPM, throttle position sensor, you know, there's just all kinds of things that this computer's already figuring out. And then basically all I want to do is take that as an input here, and I'm going to bias it on a knob, and then as I turn the knob up, I'm going to leave the spray, you know, duration open longer than what the computer says, and whenever I turn it down it'll be less, or in the middle it'll be the same. But I'll figure what that is just by turning it. And then also I'll watch my exhaust gas temperature there that we've seen before, running at, you know, 500 initially, 600 degrees once it warms up pretty good. I'll be watching that, and I'll know if I'm rich or lean. Lots of junk in the car, huh? But we'll get all this stuff cleaned out, and I'll get a passenger to ride with me and shoot the video once we get it to run. One of the things that's kind of cool is that you can look right through here at the intake, and you can see that thermocouple. That's a post going through the center there. That'll be hooked up to an Arduino that'll be driving the EGR to control the temperature of that box. You can see where the heat comes into the box, and it goes out the other side and comes back over here. So yeah, we'll get the one for the temperature going, and we'll get the one for the fuel injection pulse width going, and I'll get the fans where they'll turn on, and we'll clean the car up, and we'll put a passenger in who can video this while it's happening, and we'll get more gauges working. I haven't seen my TAC work yet. I don't know what the deal is with that. I've checked all the switches and settings on it. It looks right. Water temperature looks like it's fairly accurate. Fuel gauge shows about 1/8 of a tank when it's actually closer to empty, completely empty. So I might have to do some poking around with that resistance-wise to get the fuel tank to show exactly correct. Volt gauge looks good. Oil pressure looks good. And then the speedo, I don't have none of the speed sensor stuff hooked up yet. This little box right here, still inside of its protective plastic, is a Dakota SGI 5. It takes the input from the transmission VSS output. It takes that as an input, then it outputs different numbers for different things. One goes back to the engine for the speed for the engine to know. One's for the speedo to have. And then I'm going to run one of them up front to my electric power steering which I've talked about previously, but not lately. That's that Toyota MR2 2000 through 2005 power steering box. It's got those 3 connectors on the bottom of it there. You basically run power, some remote turn on, the vehicle speed, ground. There's not a lot to it. And then it will give me power steering. But the steering really isn't bad on this thing. And that's my new coolant jug out of my 95 Trans Am. I'm probably going to wind up putting that in for the sprayer for the washer wiper. So, anyhow, it's getting there. It's coming together. We'll have this thing on the road before a whole lot longer, hopefully. October 22nd, 23rd, and I'll be in Ohio at a conference with it, hopefully driving it. So I'll trailer it up there, that big trailer in the back. I'll get it in there, get the Trans Am out, put this in, run it to Ohio. We'll drive it up and down the road for some folks, have some passengers. It'll be a good time. Maybe my son can get his Lotus Elise fixed up. That's got a lot of metal in the pan on it, so it looks like it may be piston rings that are chewed. We haven't got those out to look at it yet. The rod bearings were good. So, and there's the bike. Go terrorize the mountains on that thing. Anyhow, y'all take care. Have a good one. Coop out.